Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we're going to check out the final of the newest wave of Fierce Force figures from Mattel for the Jurassic World line, and this is the Styracosaurus. This is, I believe, the third version of the Styracosaurus we've had so far. Hopefully this one will be a little more abundant than the last two. Honestly, they don't show up for long in stores. They disappear very quickly, and many people have a hard time getting a hold of this particular figure, so this one hopefully will be sticking around a little bit longer than some of the previous releases. As far as this one goes, I honestly don't think it looks too far different from the previous ones. Like, they always have this very similar look to them overall, but it still looks pretty nice. And I'm excited to have another new variant of the Styracosaurus. This one actually might be my favorite, honestly, as far as these Styracosaurus figures go. As far as the box art, though, you can see it's your standard Dino Escape box art. And then here on the back, we have a look at the action feature, as well as the other figures in this wave of Fierce Force, which are the Monolophosaurus, Machikosaurus, and the Tanystropheus, which we have reviewed all of those here on the channel already. So let's pop this out of the box and go straight to a closer look. So we have reviewed this figure as far as the sculpt goes in the past. This would probably be our third time reviewing it. So of course, since we have reviewed the sculpt before, we don't need to look at the sculpt again. If you would like to check out more detailed look at the sculpt, you can always check out the previous review of the Styracosaurus. Make sure you check the playlist section of this channel, as I have plenty of playlists over there with many different companies' products, and one of which would be Jurassic World reviews, where you can definitely find the other reviews of this Styracosaurus. But as far as this one goes, we need to look at what's different with this one compared to the previous one, and that would be the paint scheme. So as far as what we have here, we have a really nice tone of green for the primary body color of this Styracosaurus. You can also see some speckles picking up. We have like black speckles, it looks like, on this one, or very dark blue. It's hard to tell. I think they're actually black. But we have some nice green coloration for, again, the primary body, with some speckles that you'll see pretty abundantly throughout the course of the figure. On the face, you can see that the beak is painted very nicely with an off-white, as is the horn right here on the snout of the Styracosaurus. And all of the spikes that run along those very trademark spikes of the Styracosaurus are all very beautifully and very nicely painted with that off-white, elaborating those beautifully. And they actually all have a very nice gloss coat to them as well, which really helps to give a nice element of realism to them. Up in the frill, you can see we have some very nice yellowish tones, as well as an orange border around the yellow, which I think is nice and natural looking, and also gives the Styracosaurus a very nice healthy dose of flashiness in the frill, like you would probably expect to see on a ceratopsian. The eyes are painted with a yellow and given a black pupil. Every time Mattel gives their figures a black pupil, I always think it looks so much better, and I'm so happy to see that on this Styracosaurus. Both eyes are actually placed very nicely, so there's no sloppiness or anything to worry about, or at least as far as mine goes. You can also pick up on some of the speckles and stuff here throughout the face of the Styracosaurus. As you move back here to the back of the figure, it's actually very similar to the recent Monolophosaurus I reviewed, where we have an alternate tone of color pick up right past the neck and then disappear before we reach the tail. You can see that on this one we have a nice brownish tone of color that kind of picks up and just is like a big splotch here on the back, but then tapers off before it reaches down into the side of the dinosaur too far. Other than that, you only really have coloration here on the underside. The underside sports a nice yellowish tone, starts here in the neck, not even on the underside of the throat or anything, just starts in the neck pretty abruptly, and then transitions fairly smoothly here before it reaches the tail. There is the Jurassic Facts app code if you would like to add this to your collection. But again, other than that, there's not really anything else going on coloration-wise, except for, the usual Mattel speckles. We don't have any nail paint or anything like that. So not too much else going on, but definitely another fun repaint as far as the Styracosaurus goes. And like I had stated earlier, I really hope that this one sticks around and becomes more abundant in stores, giving everyone the opportunity to pick one of these figures up. As far as articulation goes, we have articulation here in the neck. Pretty nice articulation to go up and down. That's actually part of the action feature as well. Unfortunately, we can't swivel or anything like that. We do have articulation in the legs, forward and back, and out away from the body if our Styracosaurus wants to try to glide somewhere like a Microraptor. And then for the rear leg, of course, forward and back, we don't have anything to really, I don't know, it actually does go out away from the body a little bit, not far, but it definitely does go. And then we have articulation in the tail. The tail can go up and down, but that also activates the action feature, so you can see how the tail can move a little bit right there. But again, that does the action feature here. That gives us the action feature of the head strike that we would, again, expect to see as far as the Styracosaurus goes. Pretty nice action feature. Nothing amazing, but definitely what you would like to see on a Styracosaurus. As far as a size goes, for a length, you are looking at from the tip of the horn to the tail about 7 inches, or closing in on, I would say about 17.5 inches, closing in on 18. For a height, the Styracosaurus was falling forward for some reason. For a height, about 4 inches or 10 centimeters there to the top of that spike right there on the frill, maybe even a little bit hair higher. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, and Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line, stepping in here to show us that the Styracosaurus fits in with the same size range as every one of the Styracosaurus prior when it comes to the Mattel line, right there in that same kind of Attack Pack, Wild Pack, Fierce Force, Savage Strike type of a range. Very, very nicely sized, but it's not huge and not one of the larger Mattel figures, that is definitely for sure. So this brand new Fierce Force Styracosaurus from Mattel for the Jurassic World Dino Escape line is another fun release. Again, it's nothing incredible, nothing amazing that you absolutely need to have unless you have missed out on the Styracosaurus in the past. Then I highly recommend picking this one up, and that honestly would not be very surprising because the Styracosaurus has been one of the few figures that's, you know, fairly elusive at times. Like, it's just not something that you see very often in stores, and in fact, I don't remember if I've ever even seen one in store. I think every one I've ever had was bought online. I could be wrong about that, but I really think that might be the case. So it's definitely a good figure to pick up if you have missed the previous ones. If you do already have one of the previous ones, you may not feel so inclined to pick it up, but I will say that the coloration of this one is probably one of my favorites so far. Like, I really like the tones of color that they've used. I feel like it's all nice and naturally applied throughout the course of the figure, and the entire paint scheme is pretty much what I would like to see on a ceratopsian, so that as well does look pretty natural. Of course, as far as Mattel goes, we don't have paint out on the tail, we don't have nail paint, something that is ridiculously common with Mattel. I wish they would improve upon, but I really don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. And then you also have some fun articulation and a pretty fun action feature, so as a whole, this Styracosaurus is definitely another of the very cool releases that I definitely can say I recommend picking up. As far as this newest wave of Fierce Force figures go, I think the entire wave was a pretty darn nice wave on the part of Mattel, and honestly, I don't think that there was a single figure that I would say was a bad one, so even though there's always room for improvement, they are still really nice figures, and this Styracosaurus definitely is another really nice one from Mattel. So make sure you check your local stores. Target, I would recommend, because it seems to be the place that these are showing up most abundantly, or you can, of course, check Target.com, as it's been coming in and out of stock on there as well. And then Big Bad Toy Store, which is where I actually purchased mine. You can always check there, as they may still have it in stock. One way or another, make sure you pick this up if you can, in fact, get a hold of one. And make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.